Hello everybody, Sniping is Fun here, and I welcome you all back to my next top 10 list here on YouTube, and a continuational top list at that. I have just recently mentioned my top 10 Nintendo franchises that I feel need to be on the Nintendo Switch. A system that the first almost full-fledged information we've basically been hearing about it will be coming out in like 2 weeks, and the system launches next year in March. So it's coming upon us, the next generation Nintendo home console, handheld, hybrid thingamabob that they're really doing, that we really don't know anything about, is coming. And everything now is speculation this and rumor that. And sooner or later, we're going to be getting full-fledged information on game releases and stuff about the system. Before that happens, I want to do my own top 10 list detailing what games I feel need to be on this system, and I've already done a list specifically on my Nintendo franchises. This list is going to be detailing what third-party games and third-party franchises in general I feel need to be on the Nintendo Switch, and people will probably come and say, oh, no third parties are going to be on this or blah that, but really, I don't freaking care what you guys are saying with something like that. I feel these need to be there because, in my opinion, Nintendo needs to get as much third-party support as they can possibly damn well get, because they're going to need it. They don't just need their own franchises, they need third-party games as well, because they need that nice variety to pick from, all these different genres, all these different franchises, all this stuff on their system, so they can entice more gamers to buy it. From a business perspective, that's something you want. And in my opinion, just like the olden days of Nintendo where they had their games and they had third parties, I feel Nintendo needs to get back to that. And perhaps the Switch is the best chance they can have, because I do love the Wii U, but they need something to kick ass this time. They need to get just to bring it home and have their top games. And if you looked at my top 10 Nintendo franchises list, a lot of the franchises I mentioned were ones they haven't used in generations. Stuff like F-Zero, stuff like Advance Wars and Golden Sun, stuff like Murasame Castle and Star Tropics 10A Snowboarding and Wave Race. Stuff that a lot of their longtime fans love. And a lot of their old school fans especially remember a time when Nintendo had third parties. And the rumor is so far that a lot of people are jumping on the Switch and it's easy to develop for. And I'm hoping and praying that's the case. But I wanted to discuss this anyways in this top 10 list. Because these games, these third-party franchises, third-party games are stuff I feel need to be on the system. And that's simple as that. So stay tuned, because number 10 is coming up soon. Part 1 is going to be number 10 through number 6. Part 1 will be numbers 5 through 1 with honorable mentions, just like I've been doing recently. I hope you guys enjoy this list. And stay tuned to see what all my numbered entries are, starting, like I mentioned before, with number 10. Injustice 2. Because first and foremost, the first Injustice game was on the Wii U, and I do believe it was a slightly moderate success on the system. And Nintendo is pretty darn close with like superheroes in general, especially DC. There's a bunch of DC related stuff on Nintendo. Nintendo fans love DC games, and it's a pretty, big IP. DC Comics, and like I mentioned before, there's a lot of DC games that, like the Lego games and stuff like that, that are huge with Nintendo. And the characters and IPs like Batman, Superman are huge with a lot of Nintendo gamers. A lot of people that probably would likely own a Nintendo system too, And above all else, if not anything, Nintendo needs more fighting games on their system. They have Smash, and they can bring back Urban Champion or whatever the heck they want to do, but they need more more fighting games, and third parties are pretty much going to be the big supporter of something like that, because I would love to see more fighting games on the Nintendo systems, because I am a big fighting game fan. You guys probably haven't noticed, a lot of my top 10 lists have been detailing fighting games. But yeah, it's like the first game was really freaking fun, and it had a lot of cool DC heroes and villains, and this game is going to expand upon that. And since the last one was on the Wii U, chances are this one's going to be on the Switch as well, and that's the reason why it's so low, because it's fairly likely. But it's still a game I wanted to mention because I feel it needs to be there, not just because the connection to the DC heroes that a lot of Nintendo gamers love and a lot of gamers that will have a Nintendo system love, but because Nintendo needs more fighting games, and this is a good freaking start because it's the easiest one they could pretty much get. That was my number 10. Here's my number 9. Number 9. Resident Evil 7, because if there's one of the few like Capcom franchises that is pretty freaking closely tied to Nintendo, outside of like Mega Man and to some extent Street Fighter and Phoenix Wright and whatnot, it's Resident Evil. Like especially the GameCube was a big Resident Evil system. 4 was exclusive on it for what, like a year or so. It got the Resident Evil 0. It got a remake of the original, and it got ports of 2 and 3 from the PlayStation 1. So, like and then like 4 was ported to the to the Wii, and then there was the Umbrella Chronicles, Dark Side Chronicles games. There was Revelations on the 3DS, and it's just. And then what's that game? The Mercenaries game, Mercenaries 3D on the 3DS as well. Like, Resident Evil is a franchise that's pretty closely freaking tied to Nintendo. Now, I know 5 and 6 weren't anywhere near a Nintendo system, but really, who gives a flying crap about those really all that much? Resident Evil 7 seems to be this new take on the series, and it's going to be more darker and horror-based. And like I mentioned with the fighting game genre with Injustice, horror-based games, survival horror-based games would be another genre Nintendo needs to capitalize on and get really huge with. And Resident Evil is like the forefront of that genre, pretty much, outside of Silent Hill. So to get it in, it would have a nice home on there because a lot of Nintendo fans, a lot of gamers, probably have memories of playing, Resident Evil games on Nintendo systems. Case in point, Resident Evil 4. So I think that's a staple Capcom franchise that Nintendo needs to have on it. Not just 7, but any future Resident Evil games as well. It's the game in the series as a whole as well. It's not just Resident Evil 7, it's the series as a whole as well. But especially 7. That's my number 9. Here is my number 8. Okay, I'm just going to move close down so I can get these because it's not doing it. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Ooh, the franchise I just talked about in my last set of top 10 lists. Like I mentioned with Injustice 2, it's a big superhero thing for Nintendo. It's not just the DC heroes, but Marvel heroes too. Various, Lego games that a lot of did pretty well on Nintendo systems. And then there's like the Disney Infinity stuff, which has Marvel heroes in it too, that Nintendo fans love, and like just a lot of other superhero games in recent memory that actually have, affiliations with Nintendo as well, dating generations. Like they've always gotten like Marvel hero games, so the connection's there with Marvel. And then there's also, like I mentioned, with Resident Evil 7, there's a connection with Capcom. A lot of Nintendo fans, gamers, a lot of gamers have affiliations with these franchises, especially on Nintendo. Phoenix Wright, Mega Man, Street Fighter, and Resident Evil and whatnot. So there's affiliations both Marvel and Capcom on Nintendo. And like I mentioned with Injustice 2, Nintendo needs every freaking fighting game they can get. The fighting game genre should be big on this thing, especially if you can carry this thing around and take it on the go, and you can just meet people on the street and battle them in fighting games. That'd be even better, besides just online. And it's so freaking cool just to get more fighting games, and it's a fighting game that Nintendo should get because their affiliation with the company. Just having their fighting game on, it's going to be a huge fighting game for that matter. And they already got Tatsunoko vs. Capcom on the Wii, so how about getting a main entry from the Marvel series? And it's not like it's unlikely; it is pretty possible. It's not as likely as Injustice, but it's one I feel they need a little bit more than Injustice because I think this game will be a lot bigger than Injustice. Sorry to say, both of them would be big games, but I'm looking more forward to this, and I think more people might be looking more forward to this. And that's my number 8. Here is my number 7. No More Heroes. And I mean this more so as the No More Heroes franchise in general, but especially us finally getting a No More Heroes 3, which we haven't had a No More Heroes game in a long freaking time. Number 2 was 2010. The beginning of 2010. So once we get into January, when they're going to announce this thing, it's going to be pretty much 7 years old since No More Heroes 2, and 7 years since we got the last No More Heroes, which was one of the biggest games I feel on the Wii, one of the biggest third-party games on the Wii, I love the No More Heroes franchise. It's just so humorous and dark and graphic and funny, which I guess you said humorous, and action-oriented. I just love the characters and the story and the world, and we haven't seen it since then. And I've basically seen people mention, like Suda51 especially, like he'd be interested in it, or he was talking about like something like that. And I know he's basically mentioned that Travis Touchdown story was supposed to end with the second one, and that's fine. It does not have to have Travis Touchdown. It could have an original new character set in the same world, taken someplace after 2, or maybe a unique world if you really want. I'd love it to be in the same world though, because it'd be kind of cool if the final boss was Travis Touchdown, or some boss battle, or he helps your character or something. He's a cameo character. It'd be so freaking awesome. Then you can play some battle mode, and he's a playable character. You could battle him too, whatever. But it's a franchise that I know a lot of fans, especially that played third-party games, it was on the Wii. It was one of the standout games on that, and I've seen a lot of people love the No More Heroes franchise, myself included. And I really think it needs a revival. And we didn't see anything on the Wii U, so the Switch could very well be the return of the No More Heroes franchise, and I really feel it should be. The No More Heroes 3 especially, but I'm talking about the No More Heroes franchise in general. They could always do like remakes of 1 and 2 and then do a 3. Whatever the heck they want to do, more No More Heroes is always a good thing. And that's my number 7. Now we are on to my number 6 and the final entry on part 1 of this list. Let's see just what that is. Phoenix Wright. The whole Phoenix Wright franchise as a whole. This is one of the entries that's straight up just the franchise. Like I basically mentioned before at the beginning of this video, and it's the name of the video too, it's third-party games / franchises. So it could be just one singular game, it could be the franchise as a whole, it could be both. This is a whole. This is a bit, like we just need the Phoenix Wright Phoenix Wright franchise on the Switch. Like you could always, you first and foremost just port the three main ones on the DS, as well as both, Edgeworth games, which means we could finally get a localized number 2. And then Apollo Justice, and then all the 3DS games released on there, and then release some newer games, some new Phoenix Wright games, some new Ace Attorney games, because it's such a beloved franchise from Capcom. It's a nice, visual novel style, interactive visual novel style game, just being in court, solving court trials, and court cases, and using all the different evidence type stuff. It's a franchise that I've seen a lot of gamers love, and it's become so huge that it's got a freaking anime. How many video game franchises can say that they got something outside of their game media? They got a movie, or a cartoon / anime, or anything else, a comic book, or manga, or music, something or other. I don't know, just books even. Like, not many, and it got a freaking anime. It's that popular. People love this franchise to death. The Switch needs this franchise. Not just new games, but you can put in the old ones as well, like I said, so newer fans can get the chance to play all the older games on one singular system and then play the new games going forward. And that's that. That's my number 6 and the end of part 1 of this video. I hope you guys like this list. Put in the comment section what you guys think so far about this list. Discuss which ones I have there. Put in the comment section some of the franchises you want to see, some of the games you want to see third-party-wise on the Nintendo Switch. And stay tuned for part 2, where I go from numbers 5 through 1 with all the honorable mentions. I hope you guys liked it, like I basically mentioned before. Peace. Please subscribe if you want to. Stay tuned for future videos, including part 2 of this list. Bye.